So if you have a BMP and you look at your soil concern table and you're going to see a corrosivity or a soil reaction possibly being an issue, again, that's also related to pH. What you're going to look at is first, the place you're going to look at is suitabilities and limitations for use. So if we go to our suitabilities and limitations for use, we're going to go down and where you're going to have a drop down for building site development. However, this is where we're going to find the two things that we're going to look at for corrosion. So depending on what you're putting in as your BMP, if you're looking at concrete, you're going to drop down your corrosion of concrete and you're going to see a rating. Again, just for like all the other ones, you're going to get a color coding. It's usually green, yellow, red. Green meaning that you have low chances of corrosion, and then red being high. And so when we look at risk of corrosion, I clumped this together with pH because part of what you're going to look at a lot of times when we were talking about corrosion is we're going to look at the acidity of the soil, but there are also other factors that factor into corrosion depending on what type of thing you're putting in. So that's the reason you're going to see a difference between the corrosion of concrete and steel. So with the corrosion of concrete, this is going to be focusing on your sulfate and sodium content, as well as texture, moisture content, and the pH. So in this case, you're going to see that we do have areas on our site here that I have that have a high rating. So in this case, if I was planning to put concrete in these red areas, I'm going to want to try to plan around that to make sure that we are planning for the fact that this soil is going to erode this concrete faster. And that may be something you want to contact your regional engineer for at that point to say, hey, the soils that I'm planning this practice in are showing me that they have a really high corrosion index. Is there something that I need to do for this specific BMP to kind of shore up that BMP so that we ensuring more success? The other corrosion factor that we look at is corrosion of steel. So this is going to be kind of similar to our corrosion of concrete. You're going to get that same scale of low, moderate, high. In this case, you're going to see, again, we have some different results. And that's because when we're looking at the corrosion of steel, we're going to be looking at factors of soil moisture, our particle size distribution, acidity, which again is that pH, and then we're also going to be looking at electrical conductivity of the soil. And so they kind of relate those together to get us a rating. And so if you're seeing something that's high or maybe even moderate, that's when you may want to reach out to an engineer to figure out, hey, is there something I need to do to plan accordingly for these soils that I'm putting this practice in? Now, the other thing that we've talked about with both of these that are related is that pH. And again, we're looking at soil reaction and pH. We could go over here. This is a soil property and quality. So we're going to click up here on the tab to soil properties and qualities. And then we're going to go down to soil health properties, which is going to be a drop down. So we drop down that soil health properties and you're going down to soil health, soil reaction, and pH. So if we look at our rating here, we're going to see this is going to be a rating based off of our pH scale. So the rating is going to be the pH that is expected for this soil type. When it comes to soil reaction and pH, if you're looking at a farm site or somewhere that is not a native soil to the point that it's being manipulated a lot, you're most likely, I would suggest sending in a soil test or doing a pH test of some point to verify that soil reaction level is what it is, because when we're talking about soil pH, there are the inherent factors of the natural soil that's been undisturbed that can change the pH, which is going to be more of what we're seeing in the soils for this rating. And then there's dynamic factors, which are going to be when we're converting things to cultivation of land. Those can be adding a lime to the soil, and that can really drastically change what this rating would be and what your pH is in the soil on site. So if you do have soil reaction pH as a factor and you're looking at a site that is being manipulated by people a lot, that is going to be the moment that you're going to want to go and probably do a soil test of some sort, a pH test, just to get a better, more accurate number to base your practice on.